Have you ever sat through a devastating moment, a deep loss, or a heartbreaking conversation, and felt a quiet, terrible guilt because your eyes remained completely dry? You feel the heavy pressure building in your chest. You feel the tightness in your throat. You know the sadness is there, resting just beneath the surface. But when you close your eyes and wait for the release, nothing happens. The wave never breaks. You are left entirely dry, carrying the physical weight of an emotion that has nowhere to go. Society often looks at a person with dry eyes and makes instant, quiet assumptions. They assume you are naturally stoic. They call you resilient. They rely on the old, tired myths that say strong people don't cry or that men shouldn't cry. Or worse, if you don't shed tears during a tragedy, people might silently wonder if you were simply cold, detached, or incapable of deep empathy. But that is a profound misunderstanding of what is actually happening inside you. This isn't about being cold, and it certainly isn't about being perfectly fine. It is about the deep psychological struggle to cry, and it is a silent burden that rarely gets recognized as a genuine, painful issue. To understand why this happens, we have to look at what crying actually does for the human body. Emotional tears are not just salt water. Neuroscience shows us that when we cry, our tears literally flush stress hormones out of our system. The physical act of weeping stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps the body rest, and it releases natural painkillers like oxytocin and endorphins. Crying is a biological pressure valve. It is a vital mechanism for pain relief, social connection, and self-soothing. But for some people, that valve is jammed shut. Sometimes the barrier is partly physiological. Certain medications, especially antidepressants like selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, can brilliantly stabilize your mood, but they can also blunt the sharp edges of your emotions, making tears physically difficult to produce. Sometimes hormonal shifts, surgeries, or even physical conditions like dry eye syndrome interrupt the process. But very often, the roots go much deeper into the mind. When a person experiences severe emotional overwhelm, depression, or post-traumatic stress, the brain can enter a state of emotional suppression. In conditions like melancholic depression or anhedonia, the mind essentially flattens the emotional landscape to protect itself from further pain. You lose interest in the world, and the physical bridge between feeling sadness and releasing it gets temporarily dismantled. This kind of profound nervous system adaptation usually does not happen overnight. It is often learned response. Our brains are incredibly intelligent, and they adapt to the exact environments we place them in. If you grew up in a home where tears were punished, mocked, or ignored, your developing brain took notes. If crying made the adults around you angry, or if you had to step up and be the strong one to hold your family together, your nervous system made a life-saving calculation. It learned that showing vulnerability was dangerous. It learned that crying was not a safe way to communicate, so it simply shut the mechanism down. Over repeated life experiences, cutting off your tears ceased to be a conscious choice. It became an automatic survival strategy. It is important to state clearly that this response is not a malfunction. It is not better or worse than the person who cries easily at every commercial or passing thought. Different human beings are just wired differently based on what kept them safe. There is no right or wrong way a body learns to survive, but there is a deeply painful paradox to living this way. The paradox of being unable to cry is that it rarely means you feel nothing. Usually it means you are feeling everything all at once with absolutely no way to let it out. You carry the ghost of the tears. You absorb the pain, the stress, and the emotional weight of your own life and the lives of those around you, but you are denied the biological relief that is supposed to follow. The quiet cost of this is a heavy, lingering tension in your jaw, your neck, and your shoulders. You are enduring the storm, but you are never allowed to experience the clearing of the skies afterward. If you are recognizing yourself in this quiet struggle, please know that you are not broken. It is not your fault that your body forgot how to let go. Your nervous system was simply doing its job. It built a dam to protect you when you needed it most, and it did that job perfectly. Your experience makes complete sense. Relearning how to use this pressure valve does not mean forcing yourself to perform sadness. It is a slow, quiet journey of showing your nervous system that the war is over. It happens by finally finding a genuinely safe place, whether that's alone in a quiet room, in the presence of a deeply trusted friend, or in the supportive silence of therapy. It happens when the body finally realizes it is no longer under threat, and letting the guard down will not result in pain. Your tears are still there. They're just waiting for the right moment and the right environment to finally fall. If this resonated with something you have carried silently for a long time, stay with me. There is much more here to quietly understand.